What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. We're flying solo as Tim is out the bag of deer and Emilio's probably sleeping in. So that's how that's working out this morning. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. We're going to cover some more Packers-Niners preview for you guys and gals. We also got some news from the league about the blocked field goal in Chicago, where the Bears fans are still weeping, saying that we cheated. We'll get into all that. It's going to be a fun conversation for sure. We'll kind of reset everything from yesterday in terms of the injury news that came out, which was absolutely huge. So before we do that, though, let's give a quick shout out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since '92, specializing in Packers tickets. They are Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description and they'll send you their website, theticketking.com, where you can register and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. So let's go to the chat real quick. Everybody following in. Good to see everybody. All the Good Morning Lambeau crew in here in full force. We got Josh Vallanningham in the house. We got Chris in, Nick McSwain. iRock, what's up, buddy? Number one Packer fan in the house. Good to see everybody. Prince in the house. Morning, gents. Happy deer opener to all and good luck. Yes, sir. Again, Tim out there. I have faith in Tim. Tim's going to bring one home. No doubt about it, man. United Bates, good morning to you, buddy. And, here we Nick says it right there. Nick going to share some deer meat, right? Man, I'll tell you, we've between the podcast and the live views and everything, we got a pretty good crew here. I don't think Tim's going to be able to bag a 900-pound deer, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to happen. But we got a couple questions here in the chat. First things first here, number one Packer fan. I'm out grocery shopping for the holidays. The only thing keeping me sane is my headphones and PTA podcast. LOL. I appreciate you making us part of your morning, man. I personally like going out shopping this time of year. I don't like shopping any other time of the year, to be honest with you. I try not to get out in the crowd. I'm a very introverted person with a bit of a temper, so I don't handle being around a lot of people very well. Holidays, I don't know what it is, man. I like to get out once or twice and just get out in the rush, and be a part of it. And I think it's going in mentally prepared, knowing, hey, this is going to be a damn circus. I can handle it. But when I'm just going to the grocery store or something, or going to the mall with the wife and just for a random evening, and I run into delays, I want to lose my mind. I'm a very, very scheduled person. Mandy, if she's listening right now, what's going on? You telling me? It drives her absolutely insane, but that's the personality type, man. Choleric melancholy, right? It's choleric is very, this should have been done yesterday, and melancholy is everything's got to be perfect. So I know one of these days she's going to get just tired of me and she's just going to be gone. I know that's going to happen. It's going to be par for the course. So Nick McSwain in the chat, didn't the Packers promote someone to pass rush specialist in the offseason? Could that be why the line is struggling? All right, so it's a great question, Nick. And I had to kind of refresh myself, so I went to the Packers coaching page. So here's what happened, if I remember correctly. Jerry Montgomery was the defensive line coach, and Jason Rebrovich was the outside linebacker coach. Now, when we were in a 34, the outside linebackers are essentially the edges. So Jason Rebrovich was coaching the edge defenders only last year. Okay, well, you let Jerry Montgomery go. You cut him loose with the firing of Joe Barry. And what they did was they moved Jason Rebrovich to defensive line coach in general. And I can kind of understand the move, because in a 34 jam front, the defensive linemen are taught totally different techniques when you're in your base. That's why sometimes you would see at practice, and you'd hear the practice reports, Jason Rebrovich would have Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt with his edge defenders working on pass rush moves. So essentially, Jason Rebrovich was the pass rush coach, and Jerry Montgomery was the two-gap interior defensive line type coach. Now, obviously, when you switch to a 4-3, that becomes more of a, even when you're in your base, now when you're in your base, you're not two-gapping, okay? Again, I've tried to explain this throughout the year to make it not so confusing, because there's so much of the water that's muddy out there, where some people would report that we just played two-gap all year last year, and that is simply not the case. When we were in our nickel 2-4-5 last year, we were playing one gap if there was one back. Now, if for some reason we had a team that was taking their Y and putting them in the backfield like a makeshift fullback while we're in nickel, then you would go to a two-gap approach. So this whole notion that we just played two-gap all year long last year was simply false. So with that being said, when you switch to a 4-3, the one thing that changes about this defense, when you're in your base this year, you are playing one gap all the time, okay? Now, I have a hard time believing that Matt LaFleur is going to throw the whole two back equals two gap completely out the window. So if we play a team like San Fran this week and they put two backs in the backfield, don't be surprised if we go to a little two gap approach. And typically the way that will work is you'll either play an over or an under, and you'll put a backer on the strong side of the formation. So you'll typically shift to the under, meaning you're playing under the tight end, defensive line shaded to the weak side, and put a backer on the outside shoulder of the tight end to help fit with the run fits. And typically when you do that, the three interior guys will still two gap from time to time if it's a two back offense. So hopefully that explains it. But as far as this goes, you may be onto something, Nick. That might be the case, right? Now, we also hired, I can't put it on the screen here, but I'll read it off. Vince Ogabasi came from Boston College to Green Bay to be the assistant defensive line coach. So, when you hear about Jason Rebrovich going from edge to defensive line coach, listen, you're going from really coaching two positions to coaching four. So he brings in Ogabasi. He being Jeff Hafley brings in Ogabasi from Boston College to help with that, right? And he was a former interior defensive lineman. I think he might have played at BC, maybe not. I remember who he played for in college, but we pulled up the pictures. Massive human being. I think he probably commands respect in the locker room, the same as a teammate would. But with Coach Reb, yeah, that's essentially what happened. Your outside linebacker coach or edge coach moved to defensive line coach, which, again, he was doing that a little bit last year. Kind of makes you question what the hell was Jerry Montgomery doing, But once again, I don't want to be overly negative, but here it is. We get rid of Jerry Montgomery because we weren't happy with the interior defensive line last year, right? And then lo and behold, the interior defensive line is still struggling, and some would say took a step back. So the only thing left is how we draft on defense in the first round specifically, because you're talking about, Kenny Clark, which long time ago that he was drafted, but Devontae Wyatt, right? You're going for this physical freak, high RAS, pass rush specialist, and then we wonder why they struggle against the run from time to time, right? Or they can't tackle well, right? It's because all the eggs are in that pass rush basket as opposed to, a more well-rounded defensive lineman, which would have lower upside, right? So it's kind of give and take there. Hopefully that answered your question, Nick. Appreciate it, though, man. That's a lot of fun, dude, talking about that stuff for sure. Let's see. We got Aaron in the house. Aaron says, morning, Clayton. On my way to Wisconsin. Next stop, Milwaukee. Hey, safe travels, buddy. Milwaukee's a good airport to fly into. There's some bad ones across the country. Atlanta is absolutely horrible. Every time we go anywhere south, whether we're going to the Caribbean or we're going to Florida or anywhere down there in the Panhandle or anything, we got to go through Atlanta most of the time, and Atlanta's a train wreck. I expected Chicago to be really bad, but Chicago's actually, I've had really good luck at Chicago. Thought there was good food in the airport. We may have had a layover or two, but it was by design. It wasn't like anything got delayed. We were in and out. You go to Atlanta, and it's just always delayed. But Milwaukee, I flew into Milwaukee a couple of times, and both times were great experiences. So actually, I went up and watched Aaron Rodgers' very first start as a Green Bay Packers starting quarterback, Monday Night Football against the Vikings. And that was the first time I ever flew into Milwaukee, and great experience, man. We flew into Milwaukee, rented a Dodge Charger, and then we were in Green Bay in no time. And it was an easy drive, too. Got outside of Milwaukee, and it was cornfields and dairy farms, and it was absolutely awesome. So, man, safe travels and happy you're going to the game, man. Make sure, Aaron, do me a favor on Twitter if you get time. Any pictures you take, man, anything you want to share, DM them to me, and we'll try to incorporate them into the show, especially tomorrow for the tailgate, And listen, ain't got to be perfect pictures, and we may not use them, but just snap pictures or videos of the tailgate and DM them to me, and we'll throw them on the pregame show. But excited for you, man. That's awesome going to your first game for sure. I see Dead Fish in the chat. Hello, all. Just stopping in for a couple minutes, heading south for family time, but want to say hi to my Packer family. Appreciate you, Dead Fish. Thank you for checking in, pal. Professor Cakes. You guys think we're going to get a snow game tomorrow for my birthday? I'm hoping. No snow tomorrow, Professor Cakes. I don't see it happening, man. It's going to be in the low to mid 40s. Probably not going to happen tomorrow. Of course, with it getting darker earlier, who knows, man? You never know that 8% or that 12% chance of precipitation and that shadow cast across Lambeau Field this time of year with daylight savings and everything. You might get a flurry or two, but I wouldn't get your hopes up this week, man. It's coming though. I have a feeling we're going to have a snow game this year. All right, so let's do this. Since we talked about Coach Reb, I had a little bit of news break earlier today that I noticed about 3 hours ago from Pro Football Talk. They had tweeted out the NFL told Bears that the Packers blocked field goal was legal. You guys remember the Bears completely losing their mind over this. It was illegal. I'll tell you this. I love Pat McAfee, but he's one that really fueled the flames here. He fanned the flames of that fire and went on this little stint on his show talking about this looks illegal. But to me, the rule is somewhat blurry, and you always want to err on the side of no flag rather than a flag if there are blurred lines within the rules. Now, keep in mind, I love Pat McAfee. First of all, I'm not trying to disrespect. I love that show. I love him on College Game Day. I watch his show every single day. I listen to it if I'm on the grind at work. There's nothing better than the Pat McAfee show. But he's more times than not gonna side with the special teams, like the kicker side, right? The kicker, the holder, that's what he did. He helped for Adam Vinatieri forever. He's obviously a punter, did some kicking in college. He's always going to side on the kick unit, kick unit side of the argument. But I put out a tweet and said the NFL has informed Chicago that the game-winning blocked field goal was indeed legal. I said, Bears fans, we're going to talk about this now. You guys remember when they would not shut up about it? So, all right, there it is. There's a ruling. Let's hear you guys eat some crow here. Crickets. You won't hear from them. So, and then of course I had to throw this in with the tweet as well. Just that picture cracks me up. We're going to hold on to it. We're running out of space in the program, but Carl Brooks, just the simplest little grin, like, yeah, that's right. This is the ball I blocked. Absolutely love it, man. All right, so just a quick refresher from last night as we were talking about injuries. If you guys missed the show last night, huge news came down the pike. 49ers rule out both quarterback Brock Purdy and defensive end Nick Bosa Sunday at the Packers. Brandon Allen will be the starting quarterback, as Adam Schefter tweeted out. 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan announced that quarterback Brandon Allen will start Sunday against the Packers in place of the injured Brock Purdy. Many people were surprised that he went with Brandon Allen over Josh Dobbs. Had a couple of people tweet at me this morning saying, hey, man, are you a little bit worried about this? I wouldn't say worried, but listen, there's a reason that Kyle Shanahan chose Brandon Allen over Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs, I feel like, has more experience in this role, coming in and kind of catching a little bit of a spark and leading the team as a backup quarterback to a victory. But there's something Kyle's seen here, right? Their season isn't over. I mean, when we looked at the standings, we'll take a quick glance at it again. When you look at the NFC West, the Cardinals lead the way at 6-4, and then the other three teams are all sitting at 5-5. Their season is very much alive to win the NFC West. So in no way, shape, or form is starting Brandon Allen kind of like waving the white flag, okay, we'll just play for next year. No, these dudes are still in the hunt. So I just want to be really, really clear about that, because Brandon Allen is not as good a quarterback as Brock Purdy. We all know that. It goes without saying. However, there's something that Kyle's seen here. So you got to come out and play as if Brock Purdy's starting, as if Nick Bosa's starting, and try to put forth your best effort, because this team's going to be ready to play. Listen, they still got Fred Warner. They still got Deebo Samuel. They got George Kittle coming back. Trent Williams may or may not play. We'll see. Like, this is a really good football team, and they've had kind of a down year. Injuries. They got Christian McCaffrey. I keep not mentioning him because it's like he's still struggling to get back to form. And their backup running back, I can never remember his name, but solid backup running back as well. So again, without Bosa, you can't negate the fact too that their pass rush is going to take a hit here. As Rob Demovsky tweeted out yesterday, big difference in the Niners pass rush with and without Bosa. With Bosa, 33% pressure rate with an 8% sack rate. Without Bosa, the pressure rate drops to 18% and the sack rate drops to 2%. I know we covered all this last night. I just want to do a quick refresher for anyone who might have missed the show. On the Packers side, Rob Demovsky had tweeted out Cooper will be ruled out this week. LaFleur tells reporters just now, but doesn't think it will be long-term. Also doesn't think Jair Alexander will need to go to IR. So they are both out this week. Okay, it's already listed on the injury report. You can see Jair Alexander and Edgerrin Cooper out. So essentially, we're missing our best cornerback and what I think is our best linebacker. Okay, so we're missing two key pieces here. So we're coming in a little banged up too. Kobe Wooden's questionable. Everybody else should be good to go though. They're missing their top player on their team, in my opinion, and Nick Bosa, definitely their top defensive player and edge rusher. Okay. And then they're also losing their starting quarterback, who you guys know I've been very vocal. I think Brock Purdy's a damn good quarterback. They're also missing Charvarius Moore for the personal matter. So arguably their best cornerback as well. So they're definitely more banged up than we are, but you can't overlook this team. And again, Kyle Shanahan's going to have something schemed up to try to give Brandon Allen a chance to upset the Packers. So we just got to be prepared. No doubt about it. Now, in terms of what's on the line for this game, playoff chances, PFF had tweeted this out. The teams with the most at stake in Week 12. Guys, remember last week we had the most at stake. If you guys remember, it was something like if you win, your chance of going to the playoffs was like 60%. If you lose, it drops down to like 20%. It was like a must-win game, right? It was something around that range. This week, the Packers are once again the NFL team with the highest stakes in Week 12. So if you beat the 49ers this week, the Packers now have a 90% chance of making the playoffs. I mean, that's just about as close to a slam dunk as you can get, right? With a loss, though, it drops to 60%. So you still got more than a 50% shot if for some reason you do lose to the 49ers. But make no bones about it. You win this game tomorrow, and you're going to be in a really good spot to make the playoffs. Really good spot. So, again, you can't overlook the Niners. We're talking about all this. The Cardinals got a lot to lose too. Now, third on this list, San Francisco 49ers. With the win, it increases to a 53% chance, what we were talking about. If they drop this game, it now goes to a 15% chance of making the playoffs. So this is essentially a playoff game for Kyle Shanahan and these players that are going to be healthy for the San Francisco 49ers. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be a fun game. Again, the forecast low 40s, light variable wind. I think something like anywhere from 5 to 8 mile an hour wind. Last I heard, shouldn't be any snow or rain in the forecast. Just going to be cloudy, so it should be really good football weather. Should be able to spin that thing all around the yard. The kicking should be a huge factor there as well, as you shouldn't be passing up on any decently long kicks because the wind factor should be somewhat minimal. You guys correct me in the chat if something's changed, but that's the last time I looked at the weather report. That's what I was seeing. So. Aaron with another update here at the Vegas airport right now. All Packers fans at my terminal. Let's go. So we got Packer fans coming from out of town in Vegas to get to Green Bay. That's what I'm talking about. That's gonna be a hell of a plane ride, man. I have one of those up. I'm trying to think. I think we connected to Charlotte one year, and when we got to Charlotte, we were the only Packer fan on the flight from Tri-Cities to Charlotte. And when we got on the plane, Charlotte to Green Bay, holy cow. It was just all green and gold. There was somebody in there, too. There was a former player. I can't remember who it was. I think it was a defensive lineman. But it might have been like Sean Jones. Yeah, Sean Jones. I think it might have been Sean Jones on the flight. I can't remember. But really, really cool. So, all right, let's see here. Nick in the chat. X going to get an INT? I hope so, Nick. I hope so, man. That would be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? Again, he's making a case for Defensive Player of the Year. And now you got Nick Bosa, who's always in the running for it, missing some time. The X can go out there and get a pick and maybe, 5-6 tackles, something like that. He might be able to position himself to be in the running for that Defensive Player of the Year. That'd be a lot of fun there, too. So let's see. Number one Packer fan. I was at the Panthers game last year on Christmas Eve. Packers fans completely took over the stadium. Mandy wanted to go to that game, and I'm kind of a homebody when it comes to Christmas. Like, she always wants to go to Florida for Christmas, and I don't buck on many trips because, I grew up when we didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to go see stuff, and experience things. Like my first professional sporting event that I was able to attend, I was an adult, right? We just couldn't afford to do that stuff. So I try not to tell her no. I try not to say no to anything with Mandy. But one thing I will say no to, I am not going warm weather for Christmas. So she was talking about, hey, let's go over for the game on Christmas Eve. I just want to be at home on Christmas Eve, right? But I kind of wish I'd have went just because I think it will be a fun experience to go watch a game in Charlotte. Looks like a pretty cool setting with the stadium downtown. Maybe we'll get there soon. I know Tennessee was awesome this year. It was absolutely awesome. But all right, so since we're talking about Packers-Niners here, Brian Baldinger, former NFL veteran offensive lineman, I think he's one of the top three best at breaking down the tape when it comes to the X's and O's of football. He mentions a specific play design that the Packers used in the playoff game last year. He says the Packers playoff game at the 49ers, and they score a touchdown and a 2-point try using the same exact concept. All right, sneaky rubs from bunch formations, getting players open to take a 21-14 lead. So he's going to talk about when we hear rub plays, guys, it's where you'll throw sometimes you can run a rub route even with a 2x2 set, but most of the time it includes a tray, a trips, or a bunch set. Here's Brian Baldinger breaking down how the Packers specifically used that last year against the Niners. Now, some people were saying, Clayton, Packers have a different DC this year. They do. And the reason they have a different DC is because they were deviating too far away from what Kyle Shanahan wanted called from the defensive side of the ball. So I don't expect much to change with the 49ers defense that we've seen last year schematically than what we're probably going to see this year. So here's Baldy breaking it down.
I'm watching this game, this playoff game, divisional championship game in San Francisco last year. Right here, the Packers are down 14-13 late in the third quarter when they run this little shift right here. They're going to take Jaden Reed and put him outside of Wicks. They got a 3-receiver set right there.
All right, just to specify, he says 3-receiver set. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I just want to point out and pull another layer back. They're actually in a tray set here, okay? So you've got the tight end, I think it's Tucker Kraft. You got the tight end, then you got Wicks, then you got Reed. They had Reed inside bunch playing F, and then they motioned him out to go from a tray bunch set, tray bunch right, to just simply tray right with the tight end in the number 3 there. This is for the people on the podcast so you understand.
Pretty good indicator that's man coverage. So they run Wicks on this little pivot right here, and Tucker Kraft comes right off him, natural rub, and Jordan Love with that strong arm gets to the Kraft for the touchdown. They're up 19-14, so they go for 2. And I thought this was interesting. They line up in basically the exact same formation, anticipating man coverage. So now they take Romeo Doubs, same motion, right? Now you got Doubs, Watson, and Reed. And here's Aaron Jones down here. Man coverage. Well, who's got Aaron? Fred Warner's got him. So let's run the same concept right here, and we'll get the ball to Aaron Jones. Watch Fred Warner. He's trying to get through the soup. He can't, and it's an easy 2-point conversion for Aaron Jones. I just think there's something there. The way the Packers use formations, shifts, personnel, whether you're a man or zone, they're ahead of the game. They took a 21-14 lead on that play.
If there's one thing that Matt LaFleur understands at an elite level, it's how to use leverage. I wasn't doing the pod when Matt LaFleur was hired back in 2019, but I've tried to vocalize that me as a fan, when Matt LaFleur was hired at the time and we went away from Mike McCarthy, I was a big fan of spreading everything out, right? Like McCarthy would run this spread offense. Of course, he had his full house sets and he would run the ball as well, but he really liked to spread everything out with wide splits, not necessarily Baylor splits, not that extreme, but, create spacing, essentially trying to even up the amount of space on the field to where the defense has to cover everything individually with isolation coverage, essentially. I'm a big fan of that. So when we hired Matt LaFleur and I see all these condensed sets, I'm like, man, I really don't like these condensed sets. But essentially what Mike McCarthy would do is wide splits. He would play outside in, a lot of slants, a lot of shallow crosses, a lot of spot concepts. And then, of course, we would stretch the field all the time with like a 3-vert approach, things like that where Aaron could really hammer the seam or hit the hole shots. So I got accustomed to that. With Matt LaFleur, what he does is he tightens the splits. That's why we always specify the nasty splits. That's what he's accomplishing. Tighten the splits and then play inside out. So McCarthy, outside in isolation, Matt LaFleur, inside out leverage plays. That makes sense. And then you get receivers that can block well, like a Christian Watson, that's willing to get in there and block. Dontavion Wicks willing to block. And then you got maybe some hybrid tight ends like a Luke Musgrave or in this case a Ben Sims, where you can bring these receivers in on these tight splits and almost put them in that wing position. Like last week, we showed a specific run play where they had Jaden Reed in a closed Z, right? What they call Z closed or a nasty split Z attached. And then they had Christian Watson right behind him, in between him and the tackle. They didn't even have a tight end on that side of the field, I don't believe. And they had Christian Watson there kind of acting as a tight end essentially. And you do that because if you come out in 11 personnel, you can accomplish the same thing you do with the tight end, and you're taking advantage of a lighter defensive call, meaning they're going to go to their nickel defense, nickel 4-2-5 or nickel 2-4-5, where you've got a DB instead of a linebacker that Christian Watson needs to block. You love that matchup. Now, in some cases, like if you got George Kittle, who's, he's the highest graded tight end in the league for a reason. He's done it year in and year out. You want George Kittle on a linebacker blocking. That's actually an advantage for the 49ers, right? So it's all about playing to the strengths of your roster. And again, at the end of the day, man, players win them and coaches lose them. That's an old Belichick quote, right? And when the game's on the line, think player, not play. You always want to try to utilize the matchups with your best players on the field, taking into consideration, if I bring in an extra wide receiver, how bad is their third corner? As opposed to what it really comes down to, I guess what I'm trying to say is, would you rather face their third linebacker or their third corner, right? Some teams, it may be the linebacker. Other teams, it might be the corner. It's nice to know that the Packers have the versatility in a Christian Watson who can get in there and block in those nasty splits, just like a tight end can, and really take advantage of an extra DB. And all that is catered to by Matt LaFleur running close splits. Now, ironically, the play we just showed you was more of a McCarthy-style play, spreading out that tray, right? And again, you spread out the tray, and they think we got more space to cover. Okay, they're playing outside in. And then what did we do? We ended up playing it inside out because we had two different plays, both the touchdown and the two-point conversion, with the rub play in breaking routes. I'll be one pivot, had a choice aspect where the guy just sits, beautiful play call, rub the guy, and then have whether it's the T in the shoot route that you see with Aaron Jones on the two-point conversion, or it was Tucker Kraft on a flat route with Jaden Reed blocking that inside defender off. So those type of things are what Matt does really, really well, really well. Got it, Aaron. I'll check it as soon as we're done here, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Let's see here. Let's move on to, I think we had a couple other things. Yeah, we're going to get to the NFL Pro stuff here in a second. Let's go to the chat, though. Let's hang out in the chat for a minute. I know everybody's lighting it up here. If you guys would take a quick second, hit that like button for us. Feel free to sub to the channel. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We try to go live once daily, in some cases twice. Like today, we're going to go live twice. We'll be obviously live this morning for Good Morning Lambeau. We'll be back live tonight for PTA Live. Tomorrow, we'll be doing a pregame show and a postgame show. So it's going to be a busy day. Hell, we might do 3 shows tomorrow. We might do a Good Morning Lambeau, then a pregame, then a postgame. I'll just see if Mandy's got the divorce papers drawn up or not. So, all right, let's see here. Mike Hebrig in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says, is Keyshawn Nixon our number one corner with Jair out? If so, let that sink in. It depends on what you mean by number one corner, Mike. That when I hear people say number one corner, that means nothing to me. It doesn't. You're always going to have a corner. You're always going to have 2 cornerbacks on the field, unless you're in a heavy goal line set, somebody inside the 3, right? What it comes down to is, you have to peel it back a layer. What offense are we facing? Are we playing a 21 personnel? Are we playing 11 personnel? Are we playing 12 personnel, right? If you're asking who is the best corner on this team, outside of Jair Alexander, I'm leaning towards Carrington Valentine right now. And you guys know I was very, very critical of Carrington last year. I didn't think he was that dude. I didn't think he was that. Like, many people got really, really excited he was playing. I didn't think he played that well last year. Although, at the end of the year, you look up and go, man, the coaching staff had him out there a large chunk of the year. That says a lot about how highly they think of him, right? In terms of Keyshawn Nixon, anyone who's here to dog Keyshawn Nixon, I don't understand it. And I'll explain why. You got a guy who can play slot. He's now proven he can play outside corner. And he is arguably the best kick returner in the game before the rule change, of course. And we're getting him for, what, $5 million per? And you can cut bait after this year? I don't understand that. I really don't. Now, if the if the dig is at Goody for not going out and getting more cornerback depth, I'm on board with you, Mike, 100%. We talked about it all through the draft. We were all surprised that they didn't go out and get a corner early in the draft, right? And many people were, poking fun and they didn't even seem fit to go and get one in the first however many rounds. They waited until Kalen King at the end. Yeah, we could have used it, couldn't we? Jordan Morgan's banged up, right? Now you can't predict injuries, obviously, and I'm excited about Jordan Morgan. That pick made all the sense in the world, according to my draft board when we picked, but there was a couple corners there too I would have been happy with. So I think that what it comes down to is it was Goody banking on Eric Stokes to come back healthy and take that next step, and it just hasn't happened. Eric Stokes, to me, feels like Darnell Savage now. I hope he proves me wrong, but that's what it's feeling like. It's feeling like, hey, this guy, it's going to click. It's going to click. It's going to click. And obviously they declined the fifth-year option on Eric Stokes, unlike what they did with Darnell Savage. So I think they kind of learned their lesson there. That's a good thing. But I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that they're going to need to go out and add some corner depth this year. And Mike, to add to the point, I miss Rasul. I missed him when we made the trade. I miss him right now. I think he would have been huge to keep around with Jair being hurt. And again, he wasn't eating up a whole lot of cap, so hopefully that answers the question there. But as far as like who's the number one corner, people are still convinced that we play a defense that this elite corner follows their best wide receiver. It doesn't happen. It may happen occasionally, but it does not happen on a consistent basis. So let's see here. All good in the chat. What was discussed last week by LaFleur, where he stated something to the fact we called poor plays in the red zone versus the Bears? Yeah, I actually had a Patreon question about this. I think it was in Patreon. Or maybe I think it was a DM actually. Somebody asked, hey, what's he talking about there with the play call? Listen, the closer you get to the goal line inside the red zone, the easier spot to score in the red zone is the further out. Like closer to the 20, it's a little bit easier. What happens is when the closer you get to the goal line, you're not playing against 11 defenders. You're playing against 14. And what I mean by that is you essentially have 3 extra defenders along the back line of the end zone. And typically what teams will do is they'll play cover 2. Or in Bill Belichick and Nick Saban's case, they invented a defense way back in the day in Cleveland with the Browns called Red 2. Now, I've tried to get people to explain to me exactly how Red 2 works. And they said it's like learning Chinese. So remember Joe Barry's defense, we played a lot of zone match. And here, listen, you can look at the defense this year outside of the takeaways. The rankings are pretty damn close to last year, right? And we are playing some match principles. We're playing more cover 6 this year and a whole lot more cover 3 zone. I think we're playing less man this year than we did last year. I'm almost positive. That's hilarious to think about with everybody getting all hopped up. We're going to play a bunch of man. But with Red 2, there's zone match principles is what I'm getting at. So, there's probably a multitude of calls. Belichick was asked one time in a documentary about why do you always look so calm calling plays in these crucial situations? He said, I've only got one play call. This is way back with the New York Giants. He said, I call cover 2 every play. The difference is I got Lawrence Taylor, right? And Lawrence Taylor could do it all. Obviously, he's revolutionized the game with his pass rush ability. He actually changed up the ways that offenses protected the quarterback with the tight end and the running back. But with Red, and what he was talking about is Red 2, meaning no matter what they run, if my players are smart enough on defense, they're going to be able to adjust to any route combination, any passing concept, and be able to shut it down because Red 2 has all the bases covered. So the question I got offline or off the show here was something to the effect of what's he mean there? Like we can't. Is he saying that this offense is incapable of scoring? Is kind of the vibe I got from the question. No, he's simply saying if a defense does everything right, once you get inside the 20, it's impossible to score. It's going to take a player making a play in a one-on-one situation. It's going to take a player breaking a tackle or two after the catch because with these Red 2 concepts, everything's closed. And that's why when you hear people complain about the red zone offense, it's frustrating, but man, they get paid too. And if you've got a good DC and smart football players on that side of the ball, there ain't a damn thing you can do about it other than pound the rock, pound the rock, pound the rock. Now, that's the problem I had. Matt LaFleur said he wouldn't change the fact that he went for it on fourth down. He just wished that he would have made a better play call on third down, right? That was kind of his response there. That play call sequence was horrible. It was really bad, man. It was, if I remember correctly, it was 2nd and 1. You call a passing play. Okay. Why? I have no idea. Like I'm very much so, if they can't stop the run, you ram it down their throat until they stop it. 2nd and 1, you ran a passing play. More things can go wrong than right on a passing play, right? I think I heard it said one time, 3 things happen on a passing play and only one of them's good. So they end up getting a penalty. So now it's 2nd and 6. And then on 2nd and 6, what do you do? In my mind, I'm thinking, all right, go back to the run and let's try to make this 3rd and short here. And if you want to go for it, I have no problem going for it on 4th down in most cases. If it's 3rd and 1 and you run the ball and they stuff you, and you come out in a 4th and 1 again or a 4th and inches and you run the ball again and they stuff you, I can sleep well at night knowing that we try to run the ball on 4th and short. If they stop us, they deserve to win that rep. It's just that simple. That doesn't come down to scheme. But when you come out in 2nd and 6 and you run a jet sweep and lose 5 yards, and now you're in 3rd and 11, you went from 2nd and 1 to 3rd and 11. And many people, the argument would be, well, you had a penalty. BS. You don't have that penalty if you don't try to get aggressive passing the ball inside the 10. And again, when you come back to red 2, the way I would approach attacking a red 2 or any other variation of a cover 2 zone defense or even a cover 2 man in that situation is run the damn ball. Like, if they've got everything covered intellectually from play design, all the passing concepts are going to be covered. Don't let your ego get in the way. Run the ball and say, all right, we're going to be the tougher physical team here. And you get in that huddle as a quarterback, you look at everybody and go, listen, we're running the ball down their freaking throat right here. Believe it or not, this is what offensive linemen want. They love running the football. You hear any offensive lineman talk about it. When you're pass blocking, you're on defense as a pass blocker. You're going, okay, this guy's going to punch me in the mouth. He's going to kick my ass this whole rep, and I just got to hang on for 2.5 to 3.5 seconds here and give my quarterback time to get the ball to the right read, right? When you call a running play, they perk up like, all right, this is my chance to put him on his ass, right? And that's what I think LaFleur wishes he would have done different. Maybe in that 3rd and 11 call, I'm guessing, but I don't even remember what the 3rd and 11 call was because I completely checked out after the 2nd and 1 pass, and then I really checked out on the 2nd and 6 end around. It drove me crazy. And again, Matt LaFleur, I'm always going to say this, has forgot more about football than I'll ever know. But we just got to stop with the jet sweep stuff. And you hear people that were defending it early in the year, oh, you like it when it works, you hate it when it doesn't. They're coming around now going, all right, let's just stop with the jet sweep. They were little late to the party, but yeah. It's frustrating, man. It gets frustrating for sure. Let's see what else is going on here in the chat. We were going to hit NFL Pro, man, but I really enjoy these morning chats. You guys are lighting it up. This is awesome. And honestly, I think it's more important to hear what's on the fans' minds than it is, sometimes some of the analytics. Holmes in the chat says, I don't think Quay has pass rush moves unless he blitzes. His strength is carrying pass catchers down the seam against Tampa. Absolutely. Completely agree. Now, physical ability, you're kind of seeing this with Gary right now. I think the thing that slowed Gary down this year, in my opinion, and I think it was Emilio. It was either Emilio or Tim pointed this out to me the other day, and it did it really quick. It's like, quit with the hands moves. Stop trying to – everybody's saying Gary needs to have a second move. Gary needs to have a second move. And then when you see him trying those second moves with the swat and swims and this and that, he doesn't hit home. Gary was an interior defensive lineman in college, right? And you've seen when he got pressure last week, he's putting that arm right on the breastplate and just using his raw talent and ability to just drive the tackle back into the quarterback's lap, right? I think we need to stick to more of a power rush. Now, when you talk about Quay, his is a very quick rush, right? I'm with you is what I'm saying, Holmes. I don't think he is a great pass rusher from a sense of, figuring out a pass rush move and a counter pass rush move. I think it's his quickness, his burst, and his ability to dip a little bit. and kind of take that edge. Even and when I say edge, I'm talking about the outside shoulder of a guard inside rush, right? Not rushing off the edge, although he might be able to do it. That might be a place for him. But I'm with you. His strength is vertical coverage, no doubt about it. That's what Quay does the best of his game. Everything else, in my opinion, is below average, other than, like you said, mugging the line, creating the illusion of complexity and chaos there on the line of scrimmage, and him using that raw, natural talent of quick burst, quick first step to get inside on the quarterback. So I'm with you there, Holmes, for sure, man. Let's see here what Coach Lynn has to say. We need a fast edge, bendy edge. But we were just talking about bend, right, and dipping, which we don't have. Quay could fit that bill. Bingo. That's what we were just talking about. Like, that's Coach, that's what he does as a pass rusher, right? You don't see him just bull rush. You don't see him do a fancy swim move or a punch and spin, a spin move. It's typically inside shoulder of a guard and jab step in, outside shoulder, quickness wins every time there, right? I could see that maybe being in development, but you're going to have to try it first, right? And again, this might be the week to do it because Shanahan likes to run a lot of 21 personnel. And in some cases, it's the tight end as opposed to a traditional fullback. They've had Juszczyk forever, obviously. We talked about when they go to 21, we may go to a 4-3 under or a 4-3 over, meaning one of our linebackers is going to be on the line of scrimmage playing a wide 9 or a 7 tech, right? So whoever is going to fill that role, if it is Quay, they're not going to run out of that formation every time. This might be the opportunity to see what Quay could do off the edge, right? The issue with that is who's going to cover that vertical seam? Because, listen, they like to attack vertically from time to time, too. They like to clear out from the middle and the two with the digs. They love hitting those play action, linebackers up, hammer it right over top of the linebackers underneath the safeties for those 12-yard digs. Who's going to cover that seam if Quay is blitzing? Edgerrin Cooper's out. He's the other guy that's proven he can cover that vertical route, right? Is it Eric Wilson? Is it Isaiah McDuffie? I don't feel comfortable putting McDuffie in that situation. I don't think that's what he's good at. It might not be the week to do it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So when you go to your 4-3 under, maybe it is Hopper. Maybe Hopper gets playing time this week and you put him on the line of scrimmage. Something else you could do too, I kind of thought about in those situations where you're going to rush the quarterback, why not put Brenton Cox Jr. in at linebacker? Kind of that old school 1990s era Sam Backer, right? Now, you're not going to trick them into thinking that dude's actually dropping back into coverage. You're essentially bringing a 5-man jam look, right, where you've got both guards covered plus a nose tackle, and then you got two outside defenders, whether they be in a 5, a 7, or a 9 tech. It's interesting, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how they attack it. But he could fit that bill, Coach. I know you've talked about this extensively, that you feel like Quay might be better suited as a pass rusher. I can see where you get glimpses of that. The only issue I have is like, okay, you're taking him away from what he does really good covering vertically, right? But again, everything else that goes with it, he's not going to be covering vertically every play. We're not running Tampa 2 every play, right? So it's a good conversation for sure. Coach Lynn says he wants to see Hopper. I think I do too, man. That, and don't forget about Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis, they were pretty high on. Listen, that guy was I think he was a top 20 pick. And the problem that was made when he got drafted was they put him at edge defender, and the Packers said they're going to play him at stack backer. We may see Jamin Davis activated. We should know here pretty soon, right? Let's see, Romero Hill. Good to see you, Romero. Thanks for swinging through, buddy. He says, sometimes Matt play calling is questionable, overall good. He's one of the best at scheming up a pass. The problem is he knows he's good, and sometimes he gets a little bit wild with it. Now, keep in mind, this last game, we only passed the ball 17 times. So, granted, we didn't have the ball very often. Could be a byproduct of that. But he can also scheme the running game up, too. Don't get me wrong. Let's see as we get ready to wrap up here. At least experience. Carl K says, give us the new guys at least a bit for experience. Time for some Hopper. Yeah. I mean, think about it. If we're going to be in base tomorrow, I didn't pull the personnel up. Let me do this. I don't want to go way over. I want to keep it at about 45-minute show here. But let me pull the personnel tendencies up real quick. And let's take a quick look at it because it is important. and let's see where the 49ers are ranking in personnel tendency. Give me just a second, guys. I apologize for the delay here. All right, so let's pop it up on the screen for y'all so you can see what we're talking about. I'll go ahead and close that out. A little housekeeping, talking to myself here live on the air. Somebody just cut the pot off. I don't blame you one bit, sir. All right, here we go. So with personnel tendencies, let's see just how much 21 they're running this year. Oh, yeah. Here you go. So they're still in 11 personnel the majority of the time at 45.2%. Okay, so 45.2% of their offensive snaps are in 11 personnel, one running back, one tight end. That will trigger our nickel defense, okay? By the way, look at this ranking right here. Let me close this in so y'all can see it. It's really all that matters, right? There, maybe. Their ranking in 11 personnel is 26th in the league, guys. So they're right at the bottom. They're just what would that be? 6 from the bottom? So 6th least amount of 11 personnel in the league. But look at their 21 personnel. 21 personnel, 38.3% of the time, that's ranked first in the National Football League. So if you just go simply by ranking, they run kind of weird. They run 20 personnel more than anybody too. 21 personnel, they run it more than anyone else in the league. And look at their EPA ranking. Their EPA ranking's 8th in the league. That's pretty wild. Now look at this. 20 personnel. That's 2 running backs, no tight ends. And you go, wait, they got George Kittle. Right, but he's been banged up, right? So they've leaned into 20, meaning 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. They've been doing that here lately. Now, that might be why they've struggled too. If Kittle does play tomorrow and he's trending in that direction, you're going to see him go back to 21, I would imagine. So look for 21 tomorrow. What that means is we're going to be in our base 4-3, 38% of the snaps. Give or take 5%. That's going to be, this game right here is going to be the most we've seen our 4-3 defense all year long. And it sucks that the game that Edgerrin Cooper's missing is the one where we need him the most, right? It really does. That's a tough break for the Packers, no doubt. So that's going to be really interesting to kind of see how that shakes out in terms of what they do with 21. And Kyle Shanahan knowing that we're down Cooper, who's I think one of our more electrifying players on defense, albeit a rookie. Still, he's playing good football. He's going to know that and probably press into 21. So you'll probably see every bit of 38%. You might see him crack 40% of the snaps tomorrow. They're going to try to run the damn football and play action off of it and not ask the backup quarterback to do too much, right? I think that's going to be their game plan. So back to the original question, what it's going to come down to is who are your starting linebackers? No doubt about it, Quay's going to be your Mike, whether you like it or not. He's going to be your Mike. You're going to see a lot of Eric Wilson, I think. You're going to see a lot of Isaiah McDuffie. And then those rotational snaps, I think you're going to see either Jamin Hill or Tyron Hopper, right? So if we go back to the snap count for defense last week, let's look at this. Quay Walker, he's going to be in every single game, okay? Edgerrin Cooper's 53 snaps will probably go to I hope it goes to Eric Wilson, but judging by this, it'll probably go to McDuffie, okay? Let's say it goes to McDuffie, and then Eric Wilson would have only got 19 snaps, but you got to keep in mind, now we're going to be facing 21 personnel. So when you look at Javon Bullard, who played the slot at 52 snaps, his are probably going to go down to about 20 snaps, I would imagine. So with his going down to 20, that's going to go to the other backer, meaning either Eric Wilson or Isaiah McDuffie's probably going to crack 40 snaps tomorrow. So if it were me, I would want Quay Walker and Eric Wilson with Isaiah McDuffie and Tyron Hopper rotating in, unless they bring off the secret weapon off of practice squad, bring in Jamin Davis and go, Jamin, let's go out there and play some football, buddy, like you did at Kentucky, my Wildcats. Never won a damn thing, but he's a good football player. All right, let's just leave it at that. So, again, I'm glad we got to sneak that in, and we'll probably hit on that a little bit more tonight. I think I'll be flying solo again tonight, but regardless, we may look a little bit more into the personnel, the EPA rankings, all that stuff, but we're going to see some 4-3, man. It just sucks that Edgerrin Cooper's going to be out. But all right, guys, that's it. We went a little bit over. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Please, please, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe. We appreciate y'all making us a part of your morning. We will be back tonight, 7 p.m. Central, to talk more Packers. We will do the NFL Pro preview. We'll break any other news that might come down the pike today. and kind of give you guys an idea. We might even jump into the film room a little bit too and show some of their explosive plays here lately. What I'd like to do is go back to George Kittle's last game that he was playing and healthy and see what they did with 21 personnel. Pretty sure it'll look a lot like our 12 looks, but the only difference is they'll be set in the backfield a little bit deeper than we will with our typical wing look type thing. So, all right. Again, guys, thank y'all so much. The chat was awesome. Y'all carried the show today. Appreciate y'all taking the time to hang out with us. We will be back tonight for PTA Live. For those of you on the pod, please, I don't say this lightly, and I know we joke about with the Jacob drop and everything. Thank y'all for making us a part of your day. It means the world to us, and you are the lifeblood of what we do. Sometimes we get caught up in the visual aspect, but I really appreciate y'all keeping this thing going for us on the podcast side. Y'all are awesome. So as always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack Go.